I felt this in my life, and maybe you felt it in your life, that it can be so easy to love others, to love our pets, to love achievement, to love our environments we live in, to love things outside of ourselves. But yet, the idea of loving myself became very challenging. I could understand it cognitively to love yourself, but to actually feel it and feel that it is truth became very difficult. And maybe you felt that in your life, that you love the idea of self-love, you love the idea of all the practices of self-love, but to actually feel that, embody it maybe felt elusive, maybe felt foreign, maybe felt distant. And it was only when I started recognizing all the things that encompasses self-love and encompasses self-worth, the value that we put in ourselves, that it became more tangible. And so I want to share 7 signs that you are feeling more worthy, that you are elevating your self-worth. Because when I started recognizing these signs in my life, it was only then that I realized that I'm on this path of growing my self-worth. I have evolved in so many ways. And for so many years, many of these signs were non-existent in my life. And it was only when I had something to really recognize that I am expanding and growing, because so much of our growth that we go through, we may not even recognize if we never stop and pause to recognize it. So I want to share with you 7 signs that you are elevating your self-worth. And I want you to recognize some of these signs that you may see in your life, to realize that you are on your way. You are expressing that self-worth through yourself. You are feeling that self-worth. You are changing your level of self-worth. And the biggest thing about self-worth is that our external circumstances in our life lower down to our level of self-worth. It is only when we elevate our level of self-worth that our lives elevate around us. And so that's why it's absolutely essential. Your ability to feel fulfilled, your ability to feel loved, your ability to express yourself, your ability to chase your dreams and goals are all linked to your level of self-worth. So recognizing if you're well on your way towards a higher level of self-worth is absolutely essential. So here are the 7 signs that you are elevating your self-worth. Number 1, letting go. Now, this is letting go of anything that is pulling your energy down. It may be past situations that were really impactful, and you're able to just let them go and accept them as they are and move forward, because you're recognized now that they were anchoring you down into a past version of yourself. So you are letting that go. Maybe it's relationships that no longer serve you, that are holding you back, keeping you in that past version, and you recognize the importance of just letting some of them go, or decreasing their importance in your life. Not that you have to let things completely go from your life, but maybe they're just not as important as they were, because you are recognizing that your energy and your direction are uniquely curtailed to where you need to go, and that some of those past things that were anchoring you down no longer serve you. Number 2, celebrating achievements. So when you can celebrate your achievements, take a pause and recognize how far you have come. It's absolutely essential for elevating your self-worth and for having elevated self-worth. I read the book, The Gap and the Gain, and this was such a life changer for me just to see it through this perspective. But what they talk about in this book is that there's a gap perspective and there's a gain perspective. And so many of us, myself included, for much of my life, was just focused on the gap. Where am I currently and where do I want to be? And where am I not? What am I not? And that is such a scarcity mindset. It's just saying that you're not enough, because where you want to be, there's such a huge gap between where you are and that it feels like you're just not enough. Versus if we can look at the gain and how far we've come, where you have been. So maybe you were a different person 5 years ago and you've grown so much in 5 years. If you can focus on those achievements you've made, the growth you've gained, the gains throughout that, now that is an abundance mindset, and it's going to propel you forward and elevate your self-worth. It's also a huge sign that you have elevated self-worth. If you can celebrate your wins, focus on abundance rather than scarcity. Number 3, gain a broader perspective. Now, this is so important because we can often get lost in the immediate situation. We get lost in what's happening right now. We are only seeing maybe problems in front of us. But if we can broaden our perspective, take a few steps back and recognize where our vision is, where we are currently, and really see things for what they are, it allows us to have this perspective and clarity. And that often comes with self-worth when we realize that maybe some of these setbacks that we've had in our life were all huge stepping stones towards something great. And we can only gain that by having that step back, that difference in perspective, where we can start to see ourselves from a broadened point of view and recognize that everything that is going on in our life is divinely working for us. Everything is helping us move into the direction that we're destined to be in. Even at the time, it may have felt like a huge setback or a huge challenge or it's an awful situation. You gain something from that. You learn something from that. And it's only when we can really take a huge step back that we realize how important that was for our growth and for us to move forward. And so that comes along with self-worth. Self-worth allows you to see your life with more clarity, with more grace, and more compassion, which brings me to my next one. Self-compassion. So number 4, having self-compassion. This is where you can show yourself some love in some of the hardest times. Maybe you are going through something right now that's been really challenging. And instead of just coming down on yourself and be like, okay, you just need to show up. You got to go to this meeting. Keep going, just get through it. You show yourself some compassion. And that can just be holding your hand on your heart and being like, I see you, saying this to yourself, I see you, I know what you're going through, and I love you, and I'm here for you. And it may seem silly if this isn't something that you're used to doing, but try it. It honestly feels good when you're going through some of those really hard times to know that you have your own back, that you love yourself, and you can have empathy for yourself in some of these really hard situations. Another way to do that is just look in the mirror and say those words. Say, I love you, I approve of you, I'm here for you. And that can make such a huge difference in how you move forward. It's also a huge sign that you have elevated self-worth. Number 5, setting boundaries. This is a huge one. So it's when you have this elevated self-worth, you just have less tolerance for things that don't serve you, for things that drain you. And so boundaries are not about creating walls around your life or nixing people from your life. It's about having standards and values and holding yourself to them and allowing and inviting people in if they can uphold your values, if they can bring peace into your life and not take away. So it really becomes this bridge into your life where they can come into your life as long as they are respecting your values and that they are elevating your energy and not depleting it in the process. But having these boundaries is absolutely essential because if you have no boundaries, you will relinquish your energy, you will relinquish your time, your most precious assets to anything and anyone that comes into your life. And that when you do that is a sign of low self-worth. So when you have boundaries, it's a sign that you are valuing yourself. You are valuing who you are and your time, your energy. It's a sign of self-worth. Number 6, aligned decision-making. So when we tend to have low self-worth, we look outside ourselves to validate the decisions we make. We may ask friends, we may ask people outside, just anybody we kind of run into that, maybe we think they could help us. It could just be someone that maybe went through something last week and you're just like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And you're kind of scrambling for answers because it's someone who's gone through something maybe similar, but they don't really know you. They don't know your situation. They don't know what your values are. They know nothing about you. And you're just like grasping at straws for someone to validate you or for someone to give you direction in decision-making. Versus when you make aligned decisions, you know in your heart what's right for you. You know what's aligned with your values. You know your vision, you know what you want for life. There becomes this like peace and calmness about this decision because it feels expansive when you make it. It feels light. It feels right. There's just a knowing that you have within your heart. And it's only when you have that elevated self-worth of recognizing that you are capable of making decisions, you can trust yourself, that this becomes more of a place of grace, that decision-making becomes easier because it becomes aligned with who you are and what you desire in life. You seek out that external validation less less than you did when you didn't have that elevated self-worth. So again, aligned decision-making is a sign of self-worth. And lastly, another sign, number 7, is prioritizing self-care. So when we lack self-worth, we are more likely to relinquish our time and energy to things that say they need it. So external circumstances, society, the loud voices of others saying, I need you here. Can you do this for me? And we're so easy to give away that time and energy and then hope that maybe one day we'll finally have time to do what is meaningful to us, or we'll finally have time to go for that walk or do that yoga or meditation when it's convenient, or maybe when everything is done, then I can take care of myself. Versus when we have elevated self-worth, we realize that we are worthy of our own time and energy, and that is not only what we're worthy of, but it's also a priority. We make ourselves a non-negotiable. So we don't work ourselves in around life. We work life in around ourselves. So you realize the value of depositing into your energy bank account. You realize the value of healing, of taking that time for yourself to sit with your thoughts, to sit with your intentions, to bring yourself into a place of more harmony and peace in your life so that you can show up for life from a different perspective. So again, a sign of self-worth or elevated self-worth is making yourself a non-negotiable and prioritizing self-care. So just to reiterate, the 7 signs that you are elevating your self-care is letting go of things and people that no longer serve you, or even stories that you've been carrying that do not serve you. Number 2, celebrating achievements. Number 3, gaining a broader perspective of life so that you can see things clearly. Number 4, setting boundaries. Number 5, self-compassion. Number 6, making aligned decision-making with your values. And number 7, prioritizing self-care. Now, think about these in your life. How many of these show up in your life? And where are you? If you were to give yourself a scale from 0 to 10 on each of these, you can even take each of these categories and kind of grade yourself in a very graceful and compassionate way. Don't come down on yourself if some of the numbers are low, but it can be a really great tool just to see where you are and how well you are showing up for yourself in each of these realms. And then it becomes information for you to start working towards. So if you really struggle with boundaries and your number is low for that, then that tells you that that's something you need to direct energy towards, and that you really need to recognize what's draining your energy. Who are the people that are draining your energy? What are the circumstances, commitments that are taking away from that? And start addressing that, start creating more boundaries, start upholding those boundaries. So that can be just one way you can elevate your self-worth. If it's self-compassion, again, take a moment just to say some kind things to yourself. Feel that for yourself. Love yourself as if you were your own child and you were loving yourself in that way. So again, those 7 things, you can number them and then do a reassessment in another month or 2 and see how those have elevated through your practices. And if you love this and you want more, I have a free guide that is a top tips for nervous system harmony and self-loyalty. It's everything that I do on a regular basis, 8 strategies and habits that I implement every day to elevate my worth, to take care of myself, and regulate my nervous system so I can feel the impacts of all these 7 aspects of self-worth. So if that resonates with you, it's in the show notes. Definitely grab it. And it's just simple little things you can do every day to feel like you're more aligned and in love with yourself. So I hope this serves you well. And if you implement any of these or start recognizing any of these in your life, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to send me a comment on social media under Dr. Kelly Kessler, or leave a comment on the podcast here. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for joining me today.